Hello, dear students. I hope you all are healthy and staying at home. My name is Ankita and I am teaching as an assistant professor in Department of Computer Science and Engineering at St. Andrews Institute of Technology and Management, Gurugram. I welcome all of you to the online lecture series of computer networks. And in previous video, we studied about asynchronous transfer mode networks and synchronous optical networks, which are a kind of networks which uses either packet switching or circuit switching. So in this video we will revise the concepts of circuit switching and packet switching. Then we will see what are X.25 and frame relay networks. These two are another kind of networks apart from ATM, which are used in different applications. So we will begin with the circuit switching first of all. So as we saw, WAN technologies are based upon two types of switching techniques. A switching function provides the basic communication pathway between two endpoints and manages how the data will be flowing between two devices. The two most common switching methods are known as circuit switching and the packet switching. So this is the diagram which is showing the integrated service digital network ISDN networks, which were very first networks used for the uh, broadband connectivity also. So this was based on the circuit switching techniques. So this is an example of the circuit switching method. And in circuit switching method, a dedicated physical connection is established between the sending and the receiving devices. For example, two parties involved in a phone call, they have a dedicated link between them for a duration of the conversation, and when either party disconnects, the circuit is broken and the data path is lost. So the sending system establishes a physical connection, and the data is transmitted between two devices on that physical connection. When the transmission is complete, the channel is closed. This happens in the circuit switching method. So circuit switching says that here we have taken the example of telephone network also. When I need to call someone or to send some data, I will dial a number, then the call will be established, then I will send my message, then either party, either me or the another party ends the phone call or cut the phone call, then the connection is broken and the channel is closed. So that is the good example of your circuit switching. So next is packet switching. Frame relay networks are the best example to explain the packet switching. See, as you can see, the virtual connection between these devices. So these are the routers. These are the routers at one network, at another network, and on the third network. So whatever method of sending data this particular network is using, that is based on the packet switching connection. So in packet switching method, messages are broken into smaller pieces which are known as packets, and each packet is assigned the source and the destination address, and they are required to have this information because they do not always use the same path or route to get their intended destination. So if I have a message which is divided into 6 packets, so my packet will be following from, one time they are following from this path, second time they will be following this path, and then to this particular computer. Suppose there is also one connection. So all that packets is not that is not compulsory that all the packets follow the same path or same route to reach out to the destination. Packets can take alternative route, and if a particular route is unavailable for some reason, the packet will flow from the another path or another route. This is a method of grouping data which is transmitted over a digital network into packets which are made of a header and a payload. Obviously, in previous video I discussed about that whatever unit is transmitted from the above layer to lower layer, that unit contains data as well as header. The header is the add-on information which is added by the layer above one layer, and you can consider that as a signature that my unit my data unit has passed or has completed the functionality of the previous layer. So now I am giving that unit to the next layer. So every layer adds its own header to the data. So packets are the units which are handled by the, or which are considered as a data unit by the network layer. So only network layer provides the route to these packets. So each packet contains its own information regarding sender and the destination address. Okay, so uh, data in header is basically used by the networking hardware or the other devices to direct the packets towards the destination, where the data or the payload is extracted by the application user or application software at the destination. And a packet switching is a primary basis for the data communication in computer networks worldwide. So most of the networks these days, they use packet switching method to send their data. Basically, packet switching has two approaches: virtual circuit approach and the datagram approach. So we will see what are the various examples which uses virtual circuit and which uses datagram approach. WAN, wide area network, ATM, asynchronous transfer mode, frame relay, and telephone networks, they use connection oriented virtual circuit approach, whereas the internet is the best example to explain the datagram approach, which is a connectionless technology. So here you can see the more examples in terms of protocols, like the internet protocol or the UDP, user datagram protocol. They are the best example of connectionless protocols. Ethernet is also among connectionless protocols. Connection oriented protocols are X.25, frame relay, multi protocol label switching, and the TCP and wide area network, ATM, and some telephone networks, they use the virtual circuit approach. In case of virtual circuit packet switching, a single route or path is chosen between the sender and the receiver, and all the packets are sent through the same route. And every packet contains a virtual circuit number, so it can be recognized that from which circuit our packets have been traveled. As in case of circuit switching, virtual circuit needs a call setup before actual transmission started. So the routing is based on the virtual circuit number. So we can see that which path was followed by the packets, that is identified by the virtual circuit number only. So this approach preserves the relationship between all the packets belonging to the belonging to a whole message. Just like in the circuit switching, virtual circuit approach also has a setup, data transfer, and tear down phase. So three phases are there. Call setup will be there, then the data transfer occurs, and then the tear down phase or the call setup and phase. Resources can be allocated during the setup phase, and as in the circuit switch networks on demand or in the datagram networks, all the packets of a message follow the same path established during the connection. A virtual circuit network is normally implemented in the data link layer. That this point is important for all of you to remember. A circuit switch networks are normally implemented in DLL, data link layer. A circuit switch network is implemented in the physical layer because circuit is started from the circuit starts from the lower layer of your OSI or the TCP/IP reference model. So circuit switching technology or method is implemented at the physical layer, and datagram network is implemented on the network layer. So this is the diagram which is showing the various phases in virtual circuit packet switching. So this one is your data transfer phase. See, call setup requires that you need to inform the destination that I am going to start sending messages or the packets. So that is the call setup phase, when the connection is actually present. So the data transfer phase, when we are transmitting packets, so here first one was sent, then two, and then three. So they are following this path: A to this I, then third router, then fourth one, and then to the destination D. So these dotted lines are again the path which is available between these devices, but the solid line says that the actual data transfer phase is occurring through this path to this path. So the tear down phase says that all the connections are shown with the dashed lines. There is no solid line. So this is known as the tear down phase. Okay, so this is data transfer phase when data is actually getting transmitted, and this is the tear down phase when no connection is present. In case of datagram packet switching, all the packets are traveled irrespective of the other packets. Like in virtual circuit, what was happening, a single route was chosen between the sender and receiver, and all the packets were moving to that same route, like as you can see in this program. So the solid line shows the data transfer phase, and the dashed lines are the tear down phases. But in datagram packet switching, each packet is transmitted without any regard to the other packet, and every packet contains full information of the source and the destination. Every packet is treated as individual and independent and have independent transmission. Even if a packet is a part of multi-packet transmission, the network treats it as though it existed alone. Okay, but every packet which is traveling onto the channel is treated as a single packet, even if it is a part of a complete message. So in this case, datagram packet switching, we call that data unit as datagram. Packets are known as datagram in this case. Datagram switching is done at the network layer. So the figure shows how the datagram figure on the next slide. It shows that how datagram approach is used to deliver 4 packets from station A to D, and all 4 packet belongs to the same message, but they may travel via different paths to reach to the destination. So as you can see in this diagram, this is the best and the easiest method to explain the datagram switching. See what is happening. 1 2 3 4 packets were transmitted on this channel, and when they reach to this particular router or switch, they are using the different path after this. So whatever path is available to see, one was already on this particular route, so 2 followed this route, 3 followed again this same first route, as in case of the first packet route, then 4th from here. So all the packets are traveling from different paths. So every packet will be having their own information regarding source and the destination, but the network treat them as a single unit, even if they are a part of a complete message. So this approach can cause the datagram to arrive at their destination out of order, so with different delays and between the packets. Obviously they are moving from different path from source to destination, so every connection will have their own delays and other problems related to that connection. So accordingly they will take their own time to reach to the destination. So sequence may not be the same. Packets may also be lost or dropped because of the lack of resources, and the datagram networks are also referred to as connectionless networks. Here connectionless means that the switch does not keep any information about the connection state. So these switches are only responsible to forward these packets. They will not keep any information regarding the connection state, and there are no connection establishment or tear phases. There is just data transfer phase. When as and when this particular computer have data, it will start transmission immediately. It will start sending the data immediately. So that's why there is no tear down or connection establishment phase. Your examination on circuit switching offers a dedicated transmission channel that is reserved until it is disconnected. So throughout that particular amount of time when we are sending message, circuit will be reserved for those devices. And in packet switching, packets can be routed around network congestion. Packet switching makes efficient use of the network bandwidth. And Kohn says that circuit switching has dedicated channels that can cause delays because the channel is unavailable until one side disconnects. Uses a dedicated physical link, between the sending and the receiving devices. And cons of the packet switching says that the packets can become lost while taking alternative routes to the destination, and these messages are divided into packets. They all contain the same source and the destination addresses with each packet. Circuit switching offers the capability of strong messages temporarily to reduce the network congestion. And packet switching further is of two types, that is virtual circuit and the datagram. Datagram packets are independently sent and can take different paths throughout the network, but the virtual circuit uses a logical connection between the source and the destination. So this table you can refer to discuss about circuit switching and packet switching. Next comes different type of networks which follow the packet switching techniques. So X.255, you must have heard that it is also known as X.25 protocol. These are the packet switch networks which allow remote devices to communicate with each other over the private digital links without any expense of the individual lease lines. Okay, so there may not be any wired connections in between the computers or the systems. The remote devices can get connected with each other with the packet switched networks. The packet switching is a technique whereby the network routes individual packets of HDLC data between different destinations based on addressing with each layer. See, HDLC, here I will explain this slide later, but we will see what HDLC is. So this is a kind of protocol which stands for high level data link control, and a transmission protocol used at the data link layer 2. It is used at the data link layer 2 of the OSI 7 layer model for the data communication, and this is the protocol which embeds the information in a data frame that allows devices to control data flow and correct the errors. This is an ISO standard developed from the synchronous data link control. SDLC is also another standard from the HDLC protocol, which was proposed in 1970s. And this is bit oriented protocol basically that supports both half duplex and full duplex communication over point to point and multi-point link. So this protocol sets the communication sessions where one station is designated as the primary and the other device is known as the secondary. This session can use one of the following connection mode. First one is normal balance, in which the secondary station responds only to the primary station. In asynchronous method, the secondary station can initiate a message, and in asynchronous balance, both stations can send a or means the sender and the receiver both can send over its part of a duplex line. So this kind of mode is used in X.25 also. So this was HDLC protocol, a short definition for the HDLC protocol. This X.25 network consists of a network of interconnected nodes to which user equipment can connect. So the user end of the network is known as data terminal equipment, and the carrier's equipment is known as the data circuit terminating equipment. So X.25 routes the packet across the network from DTE to DTE, that is data terminal equipment to data terminal equipment. So X.25 provides such kind of connections, TT or DC connections, via the network layer of the OSI reference model, whereas the frame relay provides it via level 2 data link layer. So this slide shows the difference between the frame relay and the X.25. First of all, let us have example of working model of your X.25. So in this working model, see, these are the computers which are known as data terminal equipment. These are the users basically which are trying to send the data through this network. So these are known as DTEs, and the equipments which are used in this particular network are known as circuit terminating equipments. Okay, data circuit terminating equipments. So Further in the X.25, there are also, when we study any kind of network, they follow some layered architecture also. So X.25 also have three layers, which are shown by this diagram. Any DTE, that is data terminal equipment, will have these devices, four layers, sorry, because this is a data or computer terminal equipment. So it will have a user process, and a packet layer, a link access layer, and the physical layer. So data circuit terminating equipment contain, because they only contain the information regarding the circuit through which we are following our packets. They have only three layers. They do not have user process layer. So three layers are packet, link access, and physical. So the physical layer is basically concerned with, as in case of OSI or TCP/IP or ATM, the physical layer is concerned with the electrical or the signaling part of your network. It includes several electrical standards, including V.35, RS3, RS232, X.25. See, all are the standards used for the signaling and electrical. And the data link layer is equal to the data link layer of the OSI reference model, which is an implementation of the ISO HDLC standard called Link Access Procedure Balance, and provides an error-free link between any two physical connected nodes. So the data link layer is responsible for error-free communication between two nodes, and thus the errors are checked and corrected for each hop, or for each hop means for each computer line between the source and the destination, all way across the network. It is this feature that makes X.25 so robust, and so suitable for noisy and the error prone links. So it provides the error checking methods, and it is responsible for, it uses algorithms also for error free communication. So layer 3, that is network layer, governs the end-to-end communication between the different data terminal equipment devices. Layer 3 is concerned with the connection setup and teardown and flow control between the DTE devices, as well as the network routing functions also, and the multiplexing of simultaneous logic connections over a single physical connection. So the function of these three layers are very much similar to the layers which we had in uh, OSI reference model. So further in these layer corresponds to the three lowermost layers of the ISO OSI reference model. They are physical layer, data link layer, and network layer. So physical layer takes care of the interfaces between the computer terminal at the link, which attaches it to the packet switching nodes. X.25 defines the interface for exchange of the packets between the user's machine DTEs and the packet switching node to which this DTE is attached, which is called the DCE. So DCEs are the other devices through which packet switching is happening, and DTE are the actual computers or the destination of the source. So at the physical layer, X.25 physical interface is being used in X.25, which is designed for the circuit switched data networks. And at the data link layer, X.25 specifies the link access procedure, the balanced protocol, which is a subset of HDLC. So these two protocols are the subset of HDLC, which work on the data link layer of X.25. So and at the network layer, third layer, X.25 defines a protocol for an access to packet data subnetwork, and this protocol also defines the format, content, and procedures for exchange of control and the data transfer packets. The packet layer provides an external virtual circuit services. Here, as you can see here, packet. So their name has been changed. Now data link layer is replaced with the link access, and the network layer is known as the packet. Okay, so I have also included diagrams in these slides so that you can understand the concept in each and every way. This is again one example. X.25 works here as the physical layer of X.25. Frame relay is having LAPB, link access procedure balanced, and packet layer is the very third layer of your X.25, which is equivalent to the network layer. Layer 3 is concerned with the connection setup and tear down and flow control between the DTE devices. And this PLP is a network layer of X.25. Call setup mode is used to establish SVCs between DTE devices. A PLP uses the X.121 addressing scheme to set up the virtual circuit. So the call setup mode is executed on a pre-virtual circuit basis, which means that one virtual circuit can be in call setup mode while another will be in the data transfer mode. So this mode is used only with the SVCs. We will see two types of connections are there in the next slide. So first one is switched virtual circuits and another one is permanent virtual circuit. So X.25 permit a DTE user on an X.25 network to communicate with a number of remote DTEs simultaneously, and the connections over the logical channel of the uh, X.25 are of two types. First one is SVC and second one is permanent. So in SVCs, they are very much similar to the telephone net calls. A connection is established, data is transferred, and then the connection is released. So each DTE in the network is given a unique DTE address, which can be used in a similar way as your telephone numbers does. Permanent virtual circuit says that it is similar to the leased lines connections, and wherein the connections are always present. We need not to set up the connections prior, but they are already exist. The logical connection is established permanently by the packet switch network administration. Therefore, data may always be sent without any call setup. In switched virtual circuits, when we want to establish a connection, the calling DT sends a call. Calling DT means the sender sends a call. Request packet, which includes the address of the remote DT to be connected. So to set up a call request packet is sent to the destination first in case of DT. So the destination DT decides whether or not to accept the call. If it is free, it will accept. If it is not free, at that moment it will not accept the call. So until and unless call is not accepted, the connection cannot be established or data cannot be sent. So a call is accepted by using the call accept packet or cleared by issuing a clear request packet. Once the originating or the sender DT receives the call accepted packet, the virtual circuit is established and data transfer may take place. When either DTE wishes to terminate the call, a clear request packet will be sent to the remote DTE, which corresponds to a clear confirmation packet. So the destination for each packet is identified by means of the logical channel identifier and the logical channel number. So have a look in this diagram. X.25 basic working model is shown with this animated diagram. See, this DT is having three packets. So one traveled from this particular path. See again, one travel from this path, two travel from this path, and three travel from that path. So all the time the traveling the path may be different, and at the receiver end they are rearranged or reassembled. Okay, so two types of connections are there: switched virtual circuits and private virtual circuits. In this particular section, the working of the call setup or the clear request commands has been explained. So what are the applications of X.25? So many wide area network they use this technology which is based on X.25, and these type of networks support automated teller machine, ATM, credit and the credit card transaction system, uh, and some of the early online information services such as CompuServe. So all these type of networks they work on X.25 technology. Older X.25 networks they can run using 56 kbps dial-up connections, dial-up modem connections. So in modern days also your X.25 is in use. So here we had one more slide which was explaining the difference between frame relay and X.25. So this is that layer. We will study next frame relay networks. So X.25 provides it via the network layer of the OSI, whereas frame relay provides it via the data link layer. Another major difference in X.25 and frame relay is that X.25 requires a handshake between the communicating parties before any user packets are transmitted. Frame relay does not define any such handshakes. Handshake says that when you want to send some data to the destination, you have to send a request first to set up a call or to establish a connection. Then data will be sent if we get confirmation from the destination side that that computer is ready, and then the transmission is over, then we have to terminate the connection. So it is known as a three-way handshake. X.25 does not define any operations inside the packet network. It only operates at the user network interface. Thus, the network provides it is free to use any procedure it wishes inside the network. And X.25 does specify some limited retransmission procedures at the UNI, user network interface, and its link layer protocol LAPB provides conventional HDLC type link management procedures, and frame relay is a modified version of ISDN's layer 2 protocols like LAPD and LAPB. So as such, its integrity operation pertain only between nodes on a link, not at the end to end. Any retransmissions must be carried out by higher layer protocols. The X.25 UNI protocol is part of the X.25 protocol suite, and which consists of the lower three layer of the OSI reference model. So these are the difference between the frame relay and X.25. So with these differences we end up with the X.25 networks. Next we come up on the frame relay networks. These are the high performance wide area network protocols that operate at the physical layer and the data link layer of the OSI reference model. So these networks are originally designed for the use across the ISDN networks interfaces, and today it is used over a variety of other network interfaces as well. And frame relay is simplified form of packet switching, similarly in principle to the X.25, in which the synchronous frames of the data are routed to different destinations depending on the header information. So as we have already seen the difference between X.25 and frame relay, but the bigger difference between these two is that the X.25 guarantees data integrity and network managed flow control at the cost of some network delays, whereas frame relay switches packets end to end much faster, but there is no guarantee of the data integrity at all. So in terms of integrity, data integrity, X.25 were much better than a frame relay. This technology was created to simplify the X.25 protocols and provides a less expensive solution for wide area networks that needed to run a higher speed rates. Frame relay became a popular choice for the telecommunication companies in the United States during the time of 1990s. Or the fixed example of this is AT&T. In US, frame relay is quite popular because it is relatively inexpensive, and however it is being replaced in some areas by faster technologies like ATM, asynchronous transfer mode. And how the frame relay network works. They support multiplexing of the traffic from multiple connections over a shared physical link. You can see the diagram also we are having in the next slide. So the private virtual connection is shown by the these colored blocks. These colored blocks are the data. So from this particular site we are sending the data. So these are the switches in the frame relay networks. So the packets are divided which is traveling on PVC1, that is shown with the yellow colored, which is traveling on PVC2 permanent virtual circuit, it is shown with the red with the green color. So among these two also, the PVCs and PVC1 and PVC2 are sending the message, They are typically of 100 to 200 bytes. These are called subframes. So these switch work with these subframes, and after this core switch, they are giving to the edge switches again. Now they are distributed, or they are combined with their own type of mesh frames or subframes. Like as you can see, the green colored frames are divided onto this link, and so the functionality of frame relay is very much similar to the X.25. They all frame relay and X.25 both uses either switched virtual circuits or permanent virtual circuits. So in frame relay, it supports multiplexing of traffic from multiple connections over a shared physical link using special purpose hardware components, including frame routers, bridges, and switches that package data into the individual frame relay messages. Each connection utilizes a 10-bit data link connection identifier, short form as DLCI. So, frame relay supports multiplexing of traffic between multiple connections over a shared physical link using special purpose hardware components, including routers, bridges, switches, and other devices that package the data into the individual frame relay messages. So in this diagram, the messages are treating as the frame relay messages, and each connection uses a 10-bit data link connection identifier for the unique channel addressing. Two connection type exist: permanent virtual circuit and switched virtual circuit. Permanent is for persistent connections intended to be maintained for the long period of time, whereas switched are the temporary connections. Frame relay achieves a better performance than X.25 at a lower cost, primarily not performing any error correction, and that is instead offloaded to other components of the network, greatly reducing the network latency. And it also supports the variable line packet sizes for more efficient utilization of network bandwidth. They also operate on the fiber optic ISD or the ISDN line, either on the fiber optics or the ISDN lines, and they can support different higher level network protocols, including the IP. So another example of frame relay with DC and DT is, you can see these are the DT equipments, router, and these are the DC uh, data circuit terminating equipments. So the performance of the frame relay supports says that it supports data rate of standard T1 and T3 lines. See, these are the configurations of the different kind of carrier signal levels. T1 says its capacity is 1.544 Mbps, and T1 multiples can be included only one. So T2 can support 6.312 Mbps, and it can support 4 T1 terminals. T3 supports 44, and so on. So these are the two common type of digital data transmission systems which is used in telecommunications, which was originally developed at the AT&T Bell Laboratories in 1960 to support the telephone services. And T1 and T3, these lines later became a popular option for supporting the business class internet services also. So the frame relay supports T1 and T3 lines, which are offering 1.544 Mbps and 45 Mbps respectively, with individual connections down to 56 kbps. It also supports fiber connections of up to 2.4 2.4 Gbps. Each connection can be configured with the committed information rate CIR that the protocol maintains by default, and CIR refers to the minimum data rate. Committed information rate is the minimum data rate that the connection should expect to receive under the steady stage. Frame relay does not restrict maximum performance to that of a committed information rate, but also allows burst traffic where the connection can temporarily exceed to its committed information rate. Well, it can exceed up to 2 seconds only. So this was the whole content about X.25 frame relay and circuit switching and packet switching. So important questions from this video you can get: the short note on X.25 and frame relay. The question may be asked like explain various WAN technologies. So in that case you have to mention circuit switching and packet switching. We will soon meet at the next video with the different topics. Thank you so much.